Or what comes after that? Animals. So these guys are actually really, especially in the tropical environments. This picture has gone around Facebook. You all think it's funny? It's actually a study. Seabird Association of Marine Turtles and Eastern Pacific Ocean. I think it's, where is it?
Bird sitting on the turtle.
Yes, it's a bird sitting on a turtle. And they said that these guys, boobies, actually love resting on sea turtles out in open ocean. This is an actual study, which I thought was absolutely amazing. So they have a lot of, they fill up a lot of niches and they help a lot of different other animals. So you think they're not just a pretty thing to look at, they have huge implications for the entire ecosystem as a whole. Now I'm running out of time. So now we're going into sea turtle conservation. This is when a lot of the issues and the ecology and the biology of sea turtles now start to get important, because with the changing world and a lot of humans coming in and screwing everything up for the sea turtles, there's a lot of things that they don't manage to make out from. The number one thing that I think is so important, and I applaud the Nature Society for dealing with this head on here in Singapore, is marine debris. Have you ever gone to East Coast Park before the cleaners have got there? It is horrible. Can you imagine if the cleaners were not there? You should go to places of Singapore where there are no cleaners. That is the yeah, Carrie's nodding his head because he knows what's there. And we all know what's there. And I think we always say this, that if you spend time out there, maybe about 4 hours, you could make a living room out of the debris that is out there. Sea turtles eat a lot of this debris. You see some declines there, and that's because of the sample size of the studies that they went out to study. But overall, it's increasing. Sea turtles are starting to eat more debris, and it has nothing to do with the fact that there's more out there. It's just the fact that they taste good. Plastics absorb a lot of toxins, and for some reason it makes them tastier. And if you don't believe me, some of you eat at McDonald's, right? That stuff's crap, but it tastes good. Sea turtles think the same thing. This is KFC to them, man. And who can blame them? Well, that looks like a balloon to us, but to a sea turtle that looks like a jellyfish. And they'll eat that. And then you get tragic things on the internet that people keep tagging me in, like straws coming out of turtles' noses. The reason turtles do this is because when they eat something that doesn't agree with them, they'll throw it up. But the thing is, they don't throw it up through their mouth, they throw it out through their nose. So that's why you had this sea turtle that had something stuck in its nose, and that right there, when they managed to pull it out, that's the other end of a fork. So that pronged bit is in its nasal cavity, like that. And the thing about plastics is that it will, whatever they don't manage to spit out, it clamps up and clogs their digestive system, and they can't eat anything else. So when they can't eat anything else, they perpetually feel full, but there's no nutrient absorption, so they essentially starve to death thinking that they're actually full. And because plastics are buoyant, they've eaten so many plastics that we see all these dead sea turtles just floating in the water. And because of the current system in Western Australia, we get a lot of dead green sea turtles showing up at Perth when the waters are too cold. And the sea turtle vet at Murdoch, she cuts them open, and it's all just plastic. It's the most heartbreaking thing. If that's not enough, you got climate change. Climate change is such an issue because, why did that, whatever. Climate change is such an issue. This picture came from Jawara Turtle Project. Daniel, I think you took this photo. I don't know. But basically what happens is that when temperatures are too hot, they have come up with a term that the eggs start to cook. So if that looks like a hard-boiled egg to you, that's not by coincidence. It got too hot and these eggs cooked. And sometimes you can get 100% mortality with entire turtle eggs, with entire nests. So that's about 100, that's somewhere between 50 to 120 eggs, completely cooked. That's 120 turtle eggs that never saw the light of day. With climate change, you also get stronger storms, and when you get stronger storms, they will tend to erode a lot of beaches. So when you erode beach, not only do you remove potential or current nesting beaches for sea turtles, you expose their eggs. So you get places that were with high density turtle nests, and they're all just washing out. So you can have an entire season of nests, and if a big storm comes, all your eggs are in one basket, quite literally, and they're all dead. It's that simple, and this is, I'm just touching the surface. There's so many other issues with climate change that will kill off all these turtles, and this is just the beginning. We're discovering more and more things. As science is, you discover more things, and some of the things that we discover are not very nice. So what are some of the things that we try to help sea turtles with? Captive rear release. The other name for this is called a Head Start project. So what we do is that we will go out and we'll protect nests, and then once these eggs hatch, we will release as many as we can, but we'll take 2 back, any random 2. So then we'll raise them to about dinner plate size, when a lot of things can't eat them, and then we'll set them loose. And this is a great opportunity for us to also put satellite tags on them. And there's indications that this worked. So the Kemp's Ridley sea turtles in the United States, their populations were absolutely decimated because a lot of the Native Americans went out and they ate a lot of the sea turtle eggs and a lot of the sea turtles. So one year they had about 100,000. The next year they had 40,000. The year after that they only had 100. So in 3 years, you had something about like a 1,000% drop in sea turtle populations. So they actually came in and they started doing the Head Start projects for this. And they didn't get results for 20 years. This was a recent paper where one of the Kemp's Ridley sea turtles came back. So they managed to tag it on the shell in a way that the tag cannot erode. So it's like a tattoo forever. So can you imagine if you're doing this for 20 years and you're releasing as many releasing as many head started turtles as you can? Survivability of turtles is about 1 in 10,000. So after 20 years and you get 1 come back, that indicates something, that it's working. But and this was it. That's the Kemp's Ridley, and it came, and that's the tattoo. That's the tattoo that it had right there. So this was incredible because they released a notification out into the community to say, if you see a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle with this tattoo, call this number. So they got the call, and they went down and they just sat there about 200 meters away with these telescopic lens. And because the thing is that these turtles are so spooked, they're spooked really easily. So if they see a bit of movement, they'll just abandon the whole nest. And they don't want that because these guys, how long did it take to get this turtle to come back? Ages. So that's a win. There's a lot of people that say this doesn't work. That say that you're picking any random hatchling. What if they're genetically disabled? We're putting that back into the ecosystem, and we're putting that back into the gene pool. Some people argue that it doesn't matter. What matters now is that we're putting bodies back out so that they can still contribute to their ecosystem function. So there's a bit of hoo-ha about that stuff, but this kind of stuff still goes on and it works. The number one best thing that you can probably do is protecting nests. How nice would it be if we went around Singapore and we saw these with these signs? How nice would that be? Nice, wouldn't it? It's not going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen. Nest protection is the absolute best number one thing that you can do. In civil parts of the world, this works. A lot of people kind of get on board with it, especially in Western countries like Australia and the United States. And because the native, they obviously don't eat sea turtles. But when you get to a place where it's so dangerous to keep a nest like that out there, this is basically saying, take me, basically. In places like the Jawara Turtle Project, you have hatcheries. So what the wonderful people at Jawara Turtle Project do is that they'll go out, they'll look for turtle eggs, they'll find them, and then they'll move them back into the hatchery. And they'll keep them there, protected from predators, from humans, and once they hatch, they'll release them. So now you have 100%, well, supposedly 100% survivability of clutches, and you release all of them into the water. And you're also there to make sure that crabs don't eat them. So you make sure that that gauntlet that they have to run through, they survive. In the natural system, only 5% between the nest and the water make it. So because of their work and other projects around the world that have hatcheries, this kind of thing is fantastic. And community engagement is by far the most important thing that any conservation project can do, because conservation biology is, if you're just an academic sitting in your office and you're writing papers and publishing, you're just not really doing anything. And again, I want to highlight the great people at Jawara Turtle Project, because there's nothing there. These people, and as well as any other indigenous people within Southeast Asia, eat turtles. They eat turtle eggs, they eat turtle meat. So the most important people that you go out to and talk to are the people living in the community and trying to change their minds about these conservation values and make sure that they don't get eaten. Which is what Jawara Turtle Project does with the local community in Kampong Jawara. And other places, Daniel? Or is it just Jawara?
Yeah.
All at Tioman, yeah. So this is fantastic. So this is fantastic work. I mean, hands for Jawara Turtle Project. Daniel, well done. And places like in Singapore, it might work. You see a sea turtle, what's the standard question people ask about any wildlife here? This one can't even know. I just tell people it gives you cancer. That's it. It gives you cancer. Okay, so now that's a nice segue into talking about sea turtles of Singapore. What do we have? What do we have in Singapore? We have two species of sea turtle. We have green sea turtles and we have hawksbill sea turtles. The green sea turtles are often seen when you're on a boat, usually around at Semakau. They see them coming up, taking a breath and going back down. The hawksbill sea turtles are also seen in dives at Pulau Hantu and maybe other places, I'm not sure. And these are the guys, these are the celebrities on our beaches. These are the guys that always come out onto the beaches to nest. You just type in Singapore nesting turtle and you can get tons and tons and tons of newspaper articles about the sea turtles that came up onto the beach. And of course, a sliced sea turtle, which was a green sea turtle, which, go figure, you don't get them nesting here. But a lot of these articles are very, very recent. It's like sea turtles are now starting to get into the public, getting into the public interest of Singaporeans now, when the fact is that they have always been here. Another thing is that sea turtles nesting in Singapore. That tells you that decades ago, these turtles hatched from here. Before that entire map is what we see it as today, before all that land was reclaimed, those turtles hatched from here. And they're now back to make the next generation of sea turtles so that they can come back to God knows what. But then there's the question, what else is here? We know that from sightings that there are green sea turtles and there are hawksbill sea turtles in Singapore. But there was a study done, I think in 2010. What they looked at is something called a regional management unit. So a regional management unit is basically populations of the same species of sea turtle that don't interact because of their breeding migrations or because of the lands that separate the seas or whatever. So for a hawksbill sea turtle, you might have two different regional management units. So you might have a regional management unit in Southeast Asia, you might have a regional management unit in the Indian Ocean, which they don't interact. So management units are really for managers and conservationists to try to work on one thing. So if we can work on this thing, then we can let someone else worry about the other thing. We worry about this genetic makeup. So these fellas here are really smart people. They looked at thousands of papers on the genetics, on the migration routes, of the foraging activity of different sea turtles around the world. And Singapore actually falls into the regional management unit of 4 sea turtle species of 6 regional management units. Obviously we have hawksbill sea turtles, and the regional management unit that we're in is the Southeast Asian Regional Management Unit. Green sea turtles, 2 regional management units. We have Northeast Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific Ocean. Leatherback sea turtles, Western Pacific Ocean and Northeast Indian Ocean, which explains why we have a leatherback sea turtle in a museum, which was caught in about 1884. So that explains why we have a sea turtle there, because we are actually a regional management unit for leftback sea turtles. And of course, this big one, olive ridley sea turtles. And this management unit goes all the way from the mid-Pacific, where Hawaii is, all the way back here. So all these sea turtles within Southeast Asia, to the top of Australia, up until the western seaboard of Indonesia, in India, up to about where Hawaii is, not Ascension Island, where this area is, they're all genetically similar, have the same migratory routes. They're all probably of the same genetics. They're all related to each other. And that's why there was that olive ridley sea turtle caught in a fishing net when they have never seen it there before. Because they're right there. So Singapore is actually in the center of all of this. We don't see two species here, but this is enough to highlight, hey, we should probably do something about this. So what do they actually need? At the moment we have a single protected marine area. This is a terrible map, I'm sorry, and the lighting is terrible. So this is Sisters Island, so that's completely protected. Then you got St. John's, this side of St. John's that's protected, and Pulau Tekuko, Tekuko. The southwestern side is protected. So this is the only marine park that we have, that area. Where we could start is we could have more. On the other side. These are the other southern islands. So this is Semakau here. This is Pulau Hantu, this is Bukom. I don't know these islands here. There's some people that are way more intelligent than me that know what these islands are. But there are hawksbill sea turtles and green sea turtles seen in this area. If we want to protect a particular area, these areas would be a good place to start. And not just those areas, but the waters as well, to try to ensure that maybe we impose a no wake zone. So go at a speed where the boat doesn't create any wakes. So that if you knock a sea turtle, it's not going to kill it. It might stun it, but it's not going to split open its shell. Another thing, we all know about artificial lights with sea turtles, no? So what happens, so nesting sea turtles don't like this. When they see a lot of light on the beach, they feel very exposed, and they'll just say, nah, forget it, I'm going to go to another beach that's darker. This is very bad for hatchling sea turtles. We've seen a lot of reports in Singapore and elsewhere in the world where hatchlings, when they come out, they will go towards the light. And in a place where there's no development, that's usually the light of the moon shining on the ocean. When you get lights like this, they will go straight towards the lampposts. So, second thing that we could probably do is probably cover those lights. But security is a very big thing in Singapore. We're really close to Indonesia. So obviously the fear and security against terrorism and immigrants is a very real thing. So this is something that needs to be dealt with the immigration home team, as well as national parks and the local NGOs. Now, it's not just the beaches that I have to worry about. Offshore, you get all these ships out there that have all these lights. And there's lots of studies around the world where offshore lights attract sea turtles, sea turtle hatchlings. So all these signs basically say hatchlings come here. And what happens is that they go there and they don't go out to the ocean where they're supposed to go. They just congregate there. And when they aggregate there, what ends up happening is you get another sign for predators that say it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. And suddenly, the entire seasons of hatchlings are eaten up by marine predators. So all the hatchlings and really good to the NGOs and the government agencies that are doing their best to do their due diligence to get the hatchlings out into the water. But once they hit the water, you got that to deal with. And this is just one light source. Pulau Bukom, they will go straight for that as well. If there's a bright light on the mainland, they'll just head back there as well. Which is why you might end up with hatchlings at some of the ports. I don't remember if you guys remember a Facebook post where a hatchling hawksbill was found at Potong Pasir or Marina Bay's south port. But it was there. There was just one lone hatchling that probably ended up there because it was too bright. So he just ended up there and he's like, oh, where am I? And probably got eaten by a shark after that. Another thing that we could probably do is, for the small vessels, put propeller guards. Really simple, really cheap. Just put it on, make sure the turtles don't get sliced. So if you do knock into them, they have that second chance of not getting sliced up and you end up with another headline of a mangled sea turtle washing up in Singapore. Which is not a good look, people, come on. But what can you do? There's plenty that you can do. And Carrie and I joked about this. Reduce your plastic, as I went out and actually bought a plastic bottle. So, reduce your plastic because straws suck. And I can tell you, after that video of the sea turtle with the straw in its nose, I've never seen so many anti-plastic, anti-straw campaigns ever since. There's so many. I think we should get more of those videos out so that we can get more anti-crap that sea turtles won't get stuck in their noses. Another thing that I really think is actually really important, which tends to not work here, but I think stakeholder engagement in Singapore is quite good. The MP is usually just really in arm's reach. Go talk to your MP. If you don't like something, go complain MP. Right? That works here, right? Yeah. So go meet your MP. The other thing, and share your disgruntlement. Don't, have them promote the no plastic bags at fair price. And this happened before. You got NTUC that took out shark's fin from their shells. After that, they took out all paper products that had irresponsible peatland management. So it does work, at least with fair price. So if you do this more often, you might do something about it. Go ahead and do it. So what happens if you actually encounter a nesting sea turtle on East Coast Park? Say you're having a barbecue with your friends one evening and then a sea turtle happens to pop up. Be quiet, because they're very shy, at least they are around the world. Sea turtles here tend to look to be very dense, they don't really care. Don't use white light or flash, they get very sensitive to that with that blue light. Keep your distance, don't get very close to them because at any time they will start to abort. If they start laying their eggs, the die is cast and they're not going to stop. They're going to do it until it's covered. At least I think so, maybe Daniel can correct me or not. And don't touch the eggs, very important, just leave the eggs alone. They're porous, they exchange oxygen with the atmosphere, but if your hands are dirty, you can infect the eggs as well. If you encounter hatchling sea turtles, do not touch, pick them up, poke them, drop anything on them, leave them alone. Let them, because the thing is that yolk sac that they absorb before they emerge has only enough energy to get them to the ocean. So if you frustrate them and they stress out, they use more energy and it's less energy for them to get out into the open ocean. So don't touch them. If at night, don't shine a bright light on them. When the NParks people, I know that there was one article where the NParks fellows, they put lights down to try to guide them. That works because if you have a more intense light at the end of the water, they will go to that instead of back there. So this is their way of trying to manage it, which is fine, but you let the NPark staff do that. If they're not going towards the water and they're going the opposite way, this is when you can pick them up and try to put them into the water. Just let them go, okay? And help them out. If you see crabs, if you see things that look a little more interesting than they should, get rid of them, scare them away. And what we like to do, we like to clear the paths in front of them, just get rid of any shells so that it's as smooth as possible so that they don't have to go through over any of the ridges and get in trouble. And in both cases, call National Parks Hotline. Right, this slide is the most important slide in this entire talk. So take a picture of this, share this with your friends, share this around the world, not around the world, it's not gonna make sense, but this 1-800 number applies here in Singapore. Don't go back to the States and be like, oh, hello. Hello, and Paksa. What do you want now? Yeah, so take a photo of this, share this on Facebook, write down that number. Share this is really important. I see a lot of stupid videos of people just go and pick, oh, turtle, and they take a photo, take a selfie. And then, that's terrible. Google Pixel now takes a selfie when you talk to it. It's horrible. And then they put it down and let it go. Don't do that, just leave them alone. Okay? I was supposed to delete that slide. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Just as you're asking questions, these are some of the books that I not read in my spare time, but if I had more time, I would probably read them. These are very, very technical. If you don't have that basics in ecology or biology, it's very difficult. I have volume 3, so if you want to have a peruse through it, you can. So Excellent a Fish was written by the father of sea turtle biology as we know, Archie Carr. And Archie Carr has this really wonderful sense of humor and wit that just shines through in his writing. So this is actually a really good book. If you wanted a scientist to also be a script writer for Jurassic Park like movies, Carl Safina is that person. He writes with such, like his scientific papers are fantastic as a scientist would be, but when he writes for the public, he writes with such fervor and it just shines through, and you can really get lost in his writing. So this is a really good book. And Spatilla, she got a lot of pictures. This is basically a coffee table book. So this is a nice book that you can have on your coffee table, but it's informative enough that it tells you a lot about the biology, ecology, and conservation of sea turtles as a whole, and it's easily accessible. Kids can read it, and etc. So, is there any questions? No. Yes, 2 questions.
I have 2 questions.